I had the chance to see the Kia Seltos for the first time last year. Now, I should say, not necessarily see it, I saw it on the road, but reviewing it for the first time for the 2022 model. And it was surprisingly nice. Like, I find this thing fairly spacious and feature-loaded for the price point you're going to be able to find it at. Now, this is the 2023 Kia Seltos, and it is the SX. So in Canada, we're looking at the highest available trim level that this vehicle has to offer. In this gray, it looks really nice. I kind of like the little bit of red highlights that they've got on side of the caps of the wheels, though. It looks pretty unique. It's something a little bit different. Steve here, Cars with Steve. In today's video, I'm going to break down the 2023 Kia Seltos. We're going to look at what's going on with the interior, exterior styling, and a few other basics. But if you're looking for a little bit more of a technical walk around, like how to use the steering wheel cluster or that media screen to connect Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, things like that, check down in the description below for that walkthrough video. Oh, I do want to thank Durham Kia for giving me access to this thing to shoot the video for you guys today. Check down in the description below for their contact details, and I did also hide a gift card code somewhere in this video. You're the first one to find it and claim it, and it's yours. But let's unpack the 2023 Seltos, figure out what this vehicle has to offer, and see if it's still worth a buy. The styling of the Seltos is nice. It's very similar to what we saw in last year's model. It's actually exactly what we saw in last year's model. But there are some nice things that are going to set each trim level apart. Like we look at the LX base, that's going to be front wheel drive or all wheel drive as an option. 16-inch or 17-inch tire, and then we've got up to an 18-inch, so 16, 17, or 18, just depending on which trim level of the vehicle you've decided to go for. This one, because we're in the SX, has the 18-inch tires, and we're looking at all-wheel drive. And that's one of the nice things, because the Seltos is available either front wheel or all-wheel drive, just depending on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in. I do love that we've got our all-wheel drive as an option here, and big reason why, Canadian winters, it gets a little bit chaotic. So having that all-wheel drive as an option is pretty dang nice. Now we do have some nice rockers and moldings and things like that all along the outside of the vehicle. You can customize it that tiny little bit more. There's some pretty good aftermarket accessories that you can add on if you wanted to customize the look of it. Kind of like what's happening with the rim. So we've got this little like red highlight inside of the actual rim itself. So you could technically do some aftermarket stickers, vinyl, things like that if you wanted to add that little bit more of a touch to make it a bit more unique for what you'd like in your vehicle. It's nice. Now that black molding that we have all along the body of the vehicle, it does follow along the front end of the bumper there. And it's kind of like mixed partway between. So we've got a little metallic highlight along the bottom part of the bumper, body color paint along the main part of the bumper there. We do have fog lamps inside of this thing. And then we've got a few different types of lights that are going to be available. So whether that's traditional halogen versus LED is going to depend on which version of the vehicle that you're in. But the lights look really nice, stretched all the way across. We've got our beautiful black grille in the front of this thing, nicely separated there. And then we've actually got this like weave texture right along part of the hood and underneath the grille. It's actually kind of neat. Getting underneath the hood of the Seltos is straightforward. So just by our pedals there, single release in order to release it, and then to actually get underneath the hood. If we look just underneath the I in Kia there, actually I guess technically the A in Kia, we're going to slide out a little release there. That's going to pop this thing up. Not on hydraulics unfortunately, but I mean you saw there, easy enough in order to open this thing up. Now the Seltos does have two different engine choices that are available. It's either going to be a 2-liter 4-cylinder, or you've also got the option for a 1.6-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. And this one is the 1.6-liter turbocharged engine. Power-wise, it's capable of pushing out 175 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. So pretty good performance out of an engine this size. So whether you decide to go for the regular 2-liter or the 1.6 is going to be a matter of preference. Now, if you're a fan of a little bit more power inside of your vehicles, the 1.6-liter turbo, definitely going to be the way to go. I'd probably recommend that to the majority of people. But if it's a first car or you're just looking for something basic, just getting you from A to B, either engine will be okay. Now, unfortunately, you can't choose your engine with your trim level. It's essentially whatever trim level you're in, that's the engine that you're going to get. So the majority of the trim levels going to have just the base 2-liter with the SX Turbo, obviously having the turbocharged engine. But we do have our turbo cover right along the middle of the engine there, covers things up nicely. Easy access if we need to top up fluids. If we want to change our oil ourselves, we've got that flexibility. And then there's also easy access to the battery. And then changing bulbs, not too difficult on both the driver and the passenger side. But one thing for sure, regardless of whether you're going to change oil yourself, whatever the case may be, you definitely want to make sure that at a minimum, you're taking this thing in for regularly scheduled maintenance. And that's one big thing I'm actually surprised not a lot of owners do, is they don't take their cars in for servicing regularly. The downside is that mechanically, not only are you going to create chaos for your vehicles, but at the same time, you're potentially going to void your manufacturer's warranty. So if something ever happens to the car, if you haven't been regularly maintaining it, that would be a reason for Kia to say, sorry, you didn't hold up your end of the buyer's agreement, you haven't been maintaining your vehicle properly, and they may end up declining or saying no to whatever warranty claim you might be making. So just do yourself a favor, make sure that you're just regularly maintaining your vehicle to make sure you keep that warranty in check all at the same time. But like I said, feature styling wise, this is nice. Ooh, that was a little toasty there. 30-degree weather here, that explains it. But the overall look of the 1.6 turbo is pretty nice. The 2-liter is good, but like I said, the 1.6 is probably where I would go. Now, taking a peek along our driver's side door. So some basic technology. We've got our blind spot system. So this is going to highlight orange, letting us know when somebody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. Looking at the handle, we've got a nice metallic look with a little button on the outside. So as long as we've got our key fob on us, we can press this in order to be able to either lock or unlock the door, which is nice. But hopping inside, really nice look. But starting off with some door highlights on the outside here. So we've got a nice look, so a nice gloss look right along the door. You can kind of see my reflection there, which is nice. Nice metallic highlight on top of that. Moving down, we've got this like weave texture. So we've got a Bose speaker there, Bose speaker down here, but I love the textured finish of this. Like, look at the way that this pops. It's nice, it looks fantastic. Matter of preference there, I just think the overall design, the aesthetic there is kind of neat. Typical Kia styling, so we've got their basic controls for our side view mirrors, our unlock and our lock button, our window up and down. Tiny little bit of area storage there. I mean, technically for grabbing the handle to close the door, but we do have some storage along the lower part, bottle holder, whatever the case may be. Now, on the inside, we can make it a few things. So if we ever need to fill up gas, we're going to go there to make it happen. The seats themselves might be manual or power, just depending on the trim level of the vehicle that you're in. Because this is the SX Turbo, we've got this in order to bring the seat up, down. We can go forwards and backwards with it. We can adjust our backrest this way, and then we've also got two-way lumbar support inside of it. As we move to the inside, steering wheel inside of this thing is going to be a manual adjust. Just to the left-hand side of that, a few other buttons. So this one is going to increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster screen. This is going to be for head-up display, so we can either, let's lower you down a little bit there. Oh, I guess that's not going to work because the car's not on, but we could press this button if we wanted to either bring our head-up display up or down. We've got our auto start stop button, so that's the one when we come to a complete stop, it might kill power to the engine. We can turn our traction control system on or off, and then we've got our lane keep assist. So we've got two different ones. We've got our lane keep assist, and then on the steering wheel, we've also got the lane follow assist. So this one is going to gently nudge us back into our lane, versus this one is going to keep us perfectly balanced in our lane as we drive. So two different systems, but they are nice. We can use them in conjunction with one another if we want to. Well, this is pretty nice. And like, it's surprisingly spacious inside of this car. So 6 feet tall. I've got the driver's seat set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall. This is the way that I would typically drive it. And like, knee space is fantastic. Foot space is great. Up overhead, I've got about 3.5 inches of space there, which is nice. Now, we can also move the seat down a tiny little bit. I had it down pretty much all the way. So moving it down that tiny little bit, yeah, like 3.5 inches roughly of headspace there. So like 6'3", 6'4", you'll probably comfortably be able to fit inside of the Seltos. And whether you get power seats in the driver passenger side is going to depend on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in. So in this one, this is the SX Turbo. So it's the highest available trim level in Canada. And it's essentially like a fully loaded vehicle. Like, there are so many amazing things about it. But we've got our nice leather seats there. The headrest inside of this thing is just going to be a two-way adjust, so it's just going to be up and down. We have no option for forwards, backwards inside of this thing, unfortunately. Still is pretty nice though. But so many good things all around. Like if we take a look, I kind of pointed out the highlights inside of the door, but some of those nice kind of matte highlight, or the glossy highlights, I should say, follow all the way throughout the center stack and down all the way throughout. It's really, really nice. Now, because we're in the SX Turbo, there are some things in different parts of technology that are standard here that are just not going to be available in some of the other trim levels. There was some pretty great stuff. Like I pointed out, we've got the head-up display inside of this thing. So really, really nice that we've got that as an available option. Just shows up non-obtrusively there. And you know what? I'm actually going to show you how the head-up display works because it's kind of neat. So we do have a button just by our left knee. And when we press that, it is going to show our head-up display. So you can see it popping up there. And it's going to give us a little welcome message every time we use it. And as you can see there, it is going to show us our current speed and then whether or not we've got our lane keep assist system turned on. Now, if we had our smart cruise turned on with our lane centering, so our lane follow assist, lane keep assist, etc., it would show all of these different settings inside of the head-up display, which is kind of nice. Now, we do have the flexibility to show what's actually showing up inside of that screen, and that's all done through this screen down here. So really straightforward in order to be able to adjust the settings there. All we're going to do is on the main screen there, we're going to go to our setup. So we're going to go setup there, or let's say if we're on the home screen, whatever, we're just going to press the setup button there, jump into our vehicle settings, and we're going to jump down to our head-up display. We've got our display control. So we've got the flexibility to adjust the rotation or the height of the head-up display. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second, but we can also adjust the brightness here if we want to, make it brighter, darker, whatever the case may be. And we can also select what's showing up. So our turn-by-turn directions, traffic signs, our convenience info, blind spot system, and then our current radio, whether or not that's showing up inside of it. So I've got everything turned on, and I'm just going to adjust this a little bit as you're looking at the screen. So let's get you back on the screen there, and I'm going to adjust. So we can move this up, down. We can rotate it left, right, whatever the case may be, in order to make it a little bit easier for you to see it. So it is kind of nice that we've got that available as an option, but kind of neat that we've got that flexibility too. So we've got, as you saw there, turn-by-turn directions. So let's say if we wanted to navigate somewhere, we're going to look for a point of interest icon. Maybe we'll look for, let's say Starbucks. And all I'm doing is just through the screen here, so the media screen, I'm just searching for an address. And as you can see there, address is there, and we're going to set it as our destination. Do we want to activate the services? No, not yet. It's a new car, that's the only reason why I'm not doing it. Okay, there we go. And we've got our destination. We're going to start guidance.
The route guidance will start now.
And as you can see there, it gives us the direction. So we've essentially got a turn-by-turn direction inside of our head-up display there, which is kind of nice. So I love that we've got that available as an option inside of this thing. But as I said, like we've got the flexibility of setting exactly what we want inside of this. So whether it's the radio that's going to show up, if we want our guidance, if we want all of these different things showing up, like driver assistance settings, things like that. So that is pretty cool. We've got that option. Typical Kia styling, we've got our left turn stick, so it's not only for the turn stick side of things, but we can adjust what's going on with our running lamps. We've got our fog lamp control there. Stick on the right hand side is going to let us control our front and our rear windshield wipers. We've got a series of different buttons and things like that all across the steering wheel, but if you want a little bit more of an in-depth look at how to use the steering wheel, the cluster, the media screen, check in the description below. I've put together a fully comprehensive video explaining how all of this stuff works. But let's go through some basics. We've got a voice command prompt. We can change songs, radio stations. We can navigate using our voice if we have that option. If we were connected through Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, we could also press and hold that, so a longer press in order to activate either our Google or our Siri assistant, just depending on how we have it connected. We can answer or hang up on a phone call. We can increase, decrease our volume. We can mute out. We've got our smart cruise control system. So this thing is incredible. Smart cruise essentially is like an adaptive cruise. So set it and forget it cruise control. So let's say if you set it at 100 kilometers an hour, car in front of you slows down, yours is automatically going to brake. If that car in front of you picks up speed, changes lanes, whatever the case may be, it'll pick you right back up to your set speed again. So it is a really smart system. I love cars that have it. We've also got our lane follow assist. So we've got our lane keep assist, lane follow assist. The lane follow assist is going to keep us perfectly balanced in our lane. So it's going to be following the lane as we go. So it's a lane centering system. Just next to our left knee, we do have a button there, and that's going to be for the lane keep assist. So that's one that's potentially going to gently nudge us back into our lane, just depending on how we have that setting set up. So we've got either a gentle nudge or a fully, not self-driving, but it's going to keep us balanced as long as the vehicle recognizes the lane markings. But it's a phenomenal system. We've got our nice Kia badge right in the very middle of the wheel, our nice metallic highlights. Quick little horn test. Not too shabby. The steering wheel itself is going to be manual telescoping across the entire vehicle lineup, so easily move in, out, up and down as necessary, and that's just done by adjusting the stick by our left knee. But so many amazing things inside this thing. Now, another nice feature about the Seltos is what we've got capable with the windows. So nice little basic safety setting, but it's kind of cool that it's there. If you've ever had the thought of what happens if the window's going up and there's an obstacle there, let's test what happens. So, hand there, button up. Oh, like, will it actually stop? Yes, so it does have that detection. So if you're going to raise the window up on the auto window, if it notices that there's an obstacle in the way of the window, it will make sure that you're not going to crush your hand when you go up and down. The media screen inside of the Seltos, we have two different options. So in some of the higher trims, we've got this, which is phenomenal. It's a great screen. It's got factory navigation built in, and it looks really, really sharp. But there's a downside to this screen, and that is that it only supports wired Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Now, if we look at the lower trim levels, slightly different screen, that one supports wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. I think they've kind of got it backwards a teeny little bit. This thing's got a wireless charge pad. I think that it should be wireless charge pad, wireless CarPlay support. So Kia, if you're listening, make sure you update that. Like, I would love to see those wireless things in conjunction with one another. I just think it absolutely makes sense. There isn't a reason why this screen shouldn't be wireless as well, but for current owners, it is strictly a wired screen inside of the higher trims, with it being wireless in the lower trims. But if you want to walk around on how to use Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, factory navigation, things like that, check in the description for that walkthrough. But the system itself, it's very straightforward. We've got a series of different buttons right underneath the media screen for hot button presses to get into our maps, navigation settings. We've got our media, so things like our radio. We can hook up Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, go over Bluetooth. If we wanted to listen to YouTube music over Bluetooth, we've got the flexibility to do that right through the screen. And I kind of have to do this. We got to turn it on. We have to do a little audio test. Like, how can you not be in this and do that? So no media on. What I'm going to do, let's turn the media on, and actually, okay, so I gotta say, incredible sound. Like, the bass inside of this song is amazing. Love the bass, love the tunes. Artist is incredible. The sound though it sounds nice, and the reason why is because this thing has an upgraded Bose sound system. So that Bose sound system available in the highest trim level of the Seltos. And if you're an audiophile, you really love the way things sound, you're probably going to want to look at the SX Turbo. And it's just the sound inside of the Bose speakers are incredible. Don't get me wrong, the one in the base Seltos is good, but you will notice the difference in the bass, just the general sound with the Bose compared to the regular speaker setup inside of the Seltos. They're still both pretty nice though. I just have to like give it one check mark for the Bose setup inside of this. It's amazing. Now, we do have a series of different buttons and things like that all the way throughout the center stack. Flip you around so you can see what's going on down there. Now, across the center stack here, first thing to point out, we do have these nice metallic highlights that follow all the way throughout, even just different parts of the center stack there, so it looks fairly nice. We are going to be push button start inside of the vehicle, so you can see there, engine start stop. We do technically have a few different modes, so with the vehicle off, if we just press start stop, it turns us into accessory mode, turning the vehicle on part way, and we actually have to hit the brake and then hit the start stop button in order for the vehicle to actually turn on. So you can hear there, we are now fully turned on. The startup animation inside of the screen looks kind of neat. but going through some of the basics of the center stack. So starting off, we do have our 4-way blinkers. Down from there, we do have some climate control settings. So single zone climate control, but we can easily adjust whatever our climate's going to be on the inside. We can press this button to have the vehicle determine what the cabin temperature should be instead, and that's going to control the fan speed and the temperature, things like that. Series of other buttons, we can turn the whole system off. We've got our front windshield defroster, rear window defroster. We've got the option of having it go to our windshield face feet, some sort of Frankenstein combination of all the above. Air circulation, we can pull air from outside. We can adjust our fan speed and then turn our air conditioning on off from there. And moving down a little bit from there. So we do have a little storage tray right up on the top there, and that's going to be for wireless charging. So if we've got a vehicle that supports wireless charging, we will have a little indicator light that lets us know that the phone is charging. So it is kind of nice that we've got that as an available option inside of this thing. Down a little bit more, you can make it out. We've got 2 different power points there. So I guess, well, technically 3. We've got a 12-volt power point. We've got 2 USB ports. So the first one is going to be just our regular USB for data. So if we're ever hooking up a phone through Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, using a USB stick for MP3s, we would plug into that middle port. Then the port on the right-hand side is strictly going to be for charging up instead. There is a little storage area there. We've got a little assist handle. Dropping down, there are a series of different drive modes available. So moving throughout, we've got 3 different modes. So it's either going to be normal, smart, or sport mode, with each mode giving the cluster screen a little bit more of a unique look. Dropping down a little bit from there, we do have our heated seat buttons there. So you can see there, heated up, ventilated down. So if your vehicle does have the option for heated seats, actually let's get this back up into park now. So if your vehicle does have the option for heated ventilated seats, it's heated up 1, 2, 3, or ventilated down 1, 2, 3, which is kind of nice. And having these leather seats with ventilated option is really nice, especially during the summertime. There is also the option for our heated steering wheel off to the side, and moving off to the other side. So we've got a few other things that are available. We do have our all-wheel drive lock, so we can turn that on off. We've got our passenger controls for our heated ventilated seats, so we can easily adjust out there. And we've also got our downhill brake control. And the shifter, it is really nice. Like, it feels great inside of the hand. One of the fun parts about the shifter is that we do have the flexibility of jumping down into our drive mode, and we can push it over to get into our sport mode, where we can easily adjust gears out by moving the shifter up and down, which is definitely a nice thing. As we move down from there, we do have a few cup holders off to the side, so 2 individual ones there. Parking brake, we've got our auto hold setting. One of the nice things about the auto hold setting is that if we have the auto hold setting turned on, and then we go to put the vehicle into drive, as you can see there, we're in drive, we can take our foot off the brake and it's going to hold the vehicle in place while the vehicle is in drive. So it's useful if you want to be able to stretch your legs out, stop and go traffic, whatever the case may be. Down a little bit more, we have a little storage tray, and then we also do have our armrest, which has a little bit of storage space inside of it. I do like, that's an understatement. I love that this car has the flexibility to have heated and ventilated front seats. At the price point it's at, it is unbelievable the value you get inside of this thing. Actually, I just saw the window sticker. Oh, where'd he go? Oh, there you are, okay. So the winter sticker inside of this thing, fully loaded Seltos. It's the SX Turbo. It's 35,895. It's ridiculous. Like, ridiculous in the sense of like how cost effective this thing is. 1.6 liter turbocharged engine loaded with technology at that price point, I think is phenomenal. As I've got the ventilated seats going right now. So if you're in the market for a good first car, or if you're looking for a better commuting vehicle, the 1.6 is a really good option. Like, don't get me wrong, the regular 2-liter turbo is good. It's just the 1.6 performance-wise is just a step above for a few $1,000 more. We do have the auto-dimming rear view mirror available in some trim levels of the vehicle. Up overhead, we've got our tow mode, SOS mode. We've got the controls for ooh, those are nice. Love it, looks nice. So we've got our controls for our lights, and that same kind of like glossy texture that we've found on the door, it actually follows through along the top of the vehicle, and I did not know it could do that. So each individual light, we can actually press that to turn each one on. I didn't even realize that was possible. I thought we had to turn all lights on there. That is really neat. Cool. From there, we also have the option for a sunroof. we're going to find it inside of this trim and some of the other trim levels of the vehicle as well. Now, it's not a huge sunroof, but I mean, it opens things up nicely. We do have the flexibility, to just vent this thing out, which is great. So if you just want to create a nice little cross breeze, or single button press to be able to open the whole thing up. It's kind of nice. And then one cool thing, single button press in order to close it. So open, close, single button press gives a thumbs up in my books. I love it when that happens. But overall, this thing is great. We've got a nice headliner there. From here, we've got a little business card holder, vanity mirror, and the light, typical Kia styling, up over top. And then this thing is going to extend out, blocking all of the sun. Ooh, baby. Here we go. All right. This is nice. Spacing wise, I was surprised the first time I jumped into a Seltos, which was actually for the 2022 model year. And the reason why is the amount of space back here. Like, I did not think I'd be able to fit in the second row whatsoever, but I mean, I've got the driver's seat set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall. I'm 6 feet, and I've got plenty of knee space, good amount of foot space. Up overhead, I've got like 3.5 inches of head, like 3.5 inches of head space there. So very similar to what you're going to find in the first row. I've got fairly broad shoulders. So could you fit 3 full-size versions of me in the second row? It'd be tight for 3 full-size versions of me, but if you've got younger kids, or I mean, if you want people to be slightly uncomfortable for a tiny little bit, it is possible. But I mean, at the same time, like, spacing is actually pretty nice. But like me in the second row, it's not bad. I don't have as much headspace. Like, it drops it down to about 2.5 inches or so roughly of headspace when I'm in that middle seat of the second row. But I mean, you need people in the second row, and you've got that as an option. But very similar to what we saw in the first row. Nice glossy highlights along the door. We've got that same cool texture for the speaker in the second row that we saw in the first. I love the Bose speakers set up inside of this thing. It's really, really nice. Now, we do have the option for second row heated seats inside of this vehicle. So certain trim levels will have it. The SX is one of the ones that has it. So a little button there. The heated seats, strictly going to be the outboard seats. So this middle seat is never going to be heated whatsoever. You don't have the option to get that. You could throw money at Kia and they're not going to give you a middle seat that's going to be heated in the second row, unfortunately. One thing I would like to see, it would be kind of neat, is if we could somehow get the cooled seats into the second row. It's typically something you're going to find on luxury vehicles. It would be kind of neat if at a price point, this price point, or something a couple bucks more, we could get that too. It would be really neat. But here nor there, at least having heated seats in the second row is pretty dang cool. We've got pockets, just a single pocket along the passenger side behind the first row. In the armrest, just behind the driver's armrest there, we've got a little basic vent control. No climate control, just for our vents. There's a USB power point, and then a little cup holder back, or little storage space, I should say, back there. We've got cup holders in a few spots, so bottle holders along the door. And then just in the second row, we've got, oh, can't get it there from the bottom, okay. We do have second row cup holders there. So it's kind of interesting. We don't have a tab or anything like that in order to pull it down. You kind of got to jam your fingers in there and then pull down in order to get access to it. But we've got 2 cup holders there, which again, pretty nice. Now, another thing, the seats themselves are not adjustable. So we can't slide them forwards or backwards. We can't recline them either. So they're locked into place there, unfortunately. But I mean, one of the nice things is that it is a 60-40 split for the bench. So 60 on the driver's side, 40 on the passenger. So if we ever need to fold the seats down, we've got that flexibility. Now, the reason why this one's not going down, I have the front row seat, the passenger side, up a teeny little bit too much. But nice flat fold there. Well, close to flat fold, I should say there, which is nice. And then, if you've got child seats, front-facing, rear-facing seats, you're not going to have an issue inside of this thing whatsoever. We've got all of our anchor points along the bottom of the outside seats, and then we've got our tether points behind the first row, or behind the seats on top of that. So if you need to latch on, you've got that flexibility inside of this thing, which is kind of nice. Now, outside of that, a few other things to point out, just for some basics. We've got some assist handles along both the driver and the passenger side with a clothing hook just along the driver's side of the vehicle. Up overhead, we do have, okay, cabin light. So we can't touch the cabin light to turn it on there. We do have to just do a basic button press to turn those cabin lights on. But it is nice that we've got that control on the inside here. like I said, I'm surprised at how spacious this thing is. Like, it's the same thing from the 2022 model, but it is really, really spacious. And like, the seats are surprisingly comfortable. Got a good amount of cushion to the butt there, which is kind of nice. Very similar to what we saw in the first row. But this thing is pretty neat. I think Kia did a fantastic job, again, on the 23, which is unchanged relatively from the 2022 model. One big thing that is different is the interior noise inside of this thing. Apparently from the 22 to the 23, there's been a slight increase, well, sorry, I should say increase or decrease. It's a decrease. It's not going to be as loud, so it's an increase to the quietness of the interior of the cabin. So it's a decrease of the noise, I guess. That is so confusing. All right, so what they've done is they've made the cabin of the vehicle quieter in the 23 model. So I'm going to be able to get a little bit of a feel for that when I take this thing out for a spin. But we've got a few more things to take a look at before we make that happen. Let's check out the rest of the car and see what's going on. Filling up fuel inside of the Seltos is also straightforward, and I actually love the Seltos for this reason. It's locked on the outside right now, and in order to open it up, it's just on the inside. Just got to crank that. You saw that pop open, and there we go. So it's a cap system as well. So just insert your fuel hose, fill up, and you're good to go. Now, the outer door is locked. You do have the option, there are some pretty good aftermarket solutions you've got for the actual fuel cap itself that could be locked using a key. So if you're concerned of fuel theft, just know that the Seltos has you covered because the door is locked, but you can one-up it for extra security and get a lockable key for that as well. So it is nice that that is available there. When we look at fuel quality, it doesn't matter if you're in the 2-liter or the 1.6-liter turbocharged engine. Minimum manufacturer's recommendation for this thing, just regular 87 gas. So you don't need to put a premium fuel inside of this thing whatsoever. Now, some other cool things about the Seltos is basic styling. We've got our shark fin antenna along the very back, and we've also got our roof rack rails there too. So if you have a Carrier, you could just get your crossbars there, either from the dealership, aftermarket, whatever the case may be. So the Seltos has a good amount of space inside of it, but if you want to have a roof carrier, things like that, there are some good solutions that are available. Check with your dealer, some good aftermarket solutions at pretty much every retailer on top of that. It's really going to be the sky's the limit. But I gotta say, looking at this gray with all of the metallic highlights, it's actually kind of growing on me like a teeny little bit. It's kind of nice. Towards the back end of the Seltos, we have a pretty nice look. I love the way that the lamps look into this nice Kia logo. I love the redesign that they did there. It just looks really sharp. And we've got a nice metallic look, feel to it, very similar to what we're gonna find in the steering wheel, which is kind of neat. We've got our Seltos badge along the very bottom left-hand side, no badges along the right. But one cool thing, we've got our backup camera. We've also got our rear wiper. Now there's some technology you're just not going to find inside of this. We don't have any sort of rear parking system, so we're not going to get any sort of beeping as we back up, but North American safety standard, we do have our backup camera inside of this vehicle. Now, if we look at the basic design elements of the back, we've got this like weave texture, so this like honeycomb kind of look along the middle part of the rear bumper there, which is kind of neat. But we've almost got this, the way that they've cut it out, it almost looks like they were trying to go for dual exhaust, but it's a single tip exhaust and it's located just along the bottom right-hand side. And then getting inside of the trunk from the back here, so right underneath the I in Kia, we've got a little release. So we're just gonna press that to unlock, and it's a manual lift gate. So lifting up, not too difficult at all, but let's have a peek at the cargo dimensions of this thing. Now, the cargo dimensions for the Seltos are gonna be showing up. So as you can see there, we do have quite a little bit of space back here, which is definitely a nice thing, like kind of surprising all at the same time. But nice amount of width. There are a few different measurements showing up, not only for the width, but also for the height. So the width, I've got one between the wells and then the max width. And then on top of that, we also have a few options for the height. And the reason why is because we do have a removable tray in the back, but we also have this removable cargo shield. So one of the benefits there is that if you've got valuables, expensive things in the trunk of the vehicle, we can hide that. Just whenever the lift gate's closed, we can see this thing's going to raise and lower as we go. And that's just because we've got these little connectors right along the side. So if you wanted to remove this, all we're gonna do is literally just pull off each side, really simple. And then all we do is lift up and out. So it's that simple removing it, but it opens things up nicely. So if you don't care about privacy for the cargo, we could pop that off very easily, but a nice amount of height to this thing. And I did mention, so we've got the flexibility. Ooh, hello, we've got part of our jack there. So we drop this down, and then that's going to give us multi-tiered storage, or multi-level storage, I should say. Multi-level storage. It's like a multi-level marketing company for storage. All right, so we've got multi-tiered storage there, which is kind of nice. So if you need a couple extra inches of space, you've got that flexibility just by moving this part down a little bit. This whole tray, if we want to, fully removable at the same time. And when we remove the rear tray there, we've got our spare tire, and it's just a mini spare tire, but it is nice that we've got that donut inside of this thing. So we've got our jack, we've got our spare tire. So if you're handy, you could change the tire yourself if you want to, or call on roadside assistance, which is available there on top of that, which is great. Now, folding the second row seats down, also very straightforward inside of the Seltos. So we might just be able to make it out right along the top of the seats there. There's a little release. I technically can reach it from the back here, so all you do is pull, drop, and I mean, it's that simple, folding the seats down. So you can see there. Now, one thing, obviously, I don't have the cargo tray there, so launching this thing back inside on the top storage space now, we have fairly flat folds. So there's a little bit of a lip down there, but I mean, at the same time, it still is nice that we've got a fairly flat fold inside of this thing. And then as you have cargo back here, it's going to push it down like a teeny little bit. So we're not going to get a true flat fold inside of the Seltos, unfortunately, but I mean, it's pretty dang flat all at the same time. But multiple measurements coming up specifically on the depth there. The overall depth is going to depend on how far forward you have the driver's seat. So, I mean, if you're 5 feet tall, you've got it as far forward as you need it. You're going to have a few extra inches of space there. It's just the way things are, but it is nice. And we do have our top tether points. So if we look at the back of the seats there, you can see we've got our necessary tethers. So front-facing, rear-facing child seats, not going to have an issue inside of this thing, which is kind of nice. But so much amazing technology inside of this thing. The media screen, as I mentioned, so the higher trim levels has factory navigation, but wired Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. But one of the cool things, the SX Turbo does have wireless for charging. So I do wish that we had wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay with a wireless charger. I think that just makes sense, but unfortunately not here as of yet. This thing is loaded, like it's loaded for the price point that this thing is at. Like, it's wild that we've got ventilated seats, a head-up display. This thing's got a little sunroof inside of it all at the same time. There are so many cool features inside of this trim level of the vehicle. And it's nice because you've got different options available. So if your budget doesn't allow for this thing, you would have the flexibility of jumping up to a different trim level, or dropping down, I should say, to a different trim level there, and different options available. Like, we've got front wheel drive available in the LX base. You've got all wheel drive pretty much standard across the rest of the vehicle lineup in Canada anyways. Give us some gas. It's nice. It is, I'll give it that. That's one thing that I do like about these cars, is that, like, especially the 1.6 turbo, it's really good. And we've got like selectable drive modes too. So we've got sport mode. I love me my sport mode. And then we've also got sport steering as well, not sport steering, sorry, sport shifting. So we've got our sport mode, which is going to be a little bit more aggressive when we're strictly relying on it automatic. But in our shifter, we also have the option of kind of shifting it over into a sport mode, and we can adjust what gear we're in and on the fly on top of that. So it's really cool. I just noticed that when we have a car coming up beside us, so I knew that this happened, so our side view mirror is going to highlight orange, letting us know that there's somebody along our side view in our blind spot, but it also shows in the head-up display. I did not know it did that until right now. That is really cool that that's available as an option. Didn't even know that was the case. You learn things every day. Even me reviewing these cars, I learn things all the time. It's kind of cool. All right, and where can I park it? Durham Kia, fantastic dealership. They're the guys who hooked me up with this vehicle in order to shoot the video for you today. You can find their contact details down in the description below, but they're located in Oshawa. Fantastic dealership, but they've got a series of different vehicles, some 22s left, majority 23s, but we've got the Seltos, the K5, the new Sportage, which looks amazing. If you want a walk around on the Sportage, check down in the description below for that one. But it is really, I love what they did with the redesign of the Sportage. It's really, really good. Well, folks, that was a look at the 2023 Kia Seltos. What did you think? Nice vehicle, fairly loaded, especially when you get into this SX trim level. Like, having the head-up display is nice. All of this extra technology, I think, is fantastic. But what did you think of the ride? If you have any questions, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. I'm more than willing to talk you through any issues that you might be having. There are some other videos that you can check out on the Seltos, so using the cluster, figuring out how to use Smart Cruise, using the media screen. You can find all that stuff in the description. You can also find the build link for this specific one in the description on top of that. But if you enjoyed this video, thumbs up, share it with your social networks, and until I see you next time, take care.